So Erik Ten Hag seems like the next up-and-coming manager ready to push into that elite level category of managers very soon. But at Manchester United, his system would require a radical overhaul, with players who are fan favourites either having to adapt or straight up having to be replaced. It could however be the perfect opportunity for a number of young players to break through and develop into top level players in the same way that a number of the Ajax youngsters have done under Ten Hag. But what exactly is Ten Hag's philosophy and system? Where does it come from? How is it similar to Guardiola's? And most importantly, how would the current United squad fit into that vision, and ultimately would it work? But before I break that down, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com. I myself have bought a number of different jerseys from Jersey FIFA, including this Manchester United 2003-2004 jersey with Ronaldo on the back. So if you do like the look of any of these jerseys or any of the new MLS jerseys that have just been released on Jersey FIFA, I'll leave a link in the description and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL at checkout to get 5% off. So Erik Ten Hag's philosophy and system is right out of the Johan Cruyff school of thought. So if you do want a comparison with managers who have a similar on the pitch style, then it would be managers like Luis Enrique, Xavi Hernandez, and of course Pep Guardiola. The thing that ties all of these managers together isn't just that their teams do look to dominate possession and press aggressively, it's also how they use the positioning of players on the pitch to aid their strategies. It was Rinus Michels who really made the total football style famous, first with Ajax from 1965 to 1971, and then with Barcelona from 71 to 74, before moving it on to the Dutch national side at the 1974 World Cup. The total football system was based around extreme positional fluidity, where any player in any position could drop into any role within the 3-4-3 position shape. Sometimes Johan Cruyff, the centre forward, would drop back into the back line, playing the role of a sweeper in possession. The Netherlands also used an intense counter press alongside a very extreme offside trap, and that was designed not only to compress a play but to win the ball back as quickly as possible, with essentially the whole team swarming around the ball. At Barcelona in the 90s, Cruyff used a 3-4-3 system in which he used almost two diamonds on the pitch, with a diamond in midfield, and then with Koeman playing as a libero, creating a diamond shape with the other two defenders, and Pep Guardiola at the point of the diamond. This enabled Cruyff's side to still have two natural wingers sitting high and wide to stretch the pitch, which we do see both Ten Hag and Guardiola use, which does stem from Cruyff's total football. Now Ten Hag was Bayern Munich's B team manager from 2013 to 2015, whilst Guardiola was the Bayern Munich manager, and so there are a lot of similarities between their styles, with the ultimate influence of Cruyff and Michels before. The total football philosophy aims to make the pitch as big as possible in possession and as small as possible without it. Like Guardiola, Ten Hag usually deploys two natural wingers who sit high and wide, creating an extremely wide front three, with the centre forward also high up the pitch. This was quite unconventional during the 2010s, with teams using wide attackers more as playmakers or inside forwards, who would drift infield either between the lines of the opposition system, in the case of someone like Eden Hazard, or into a forward position as someone like Sadio Mane for Liverpool does. Now the reason that Ten Hag and the Cruyffian managers use natural wingers sitting high and wide is firstly because it pushes the opposition fullbacks backwards into a flat back four, maximising the vertical distance between the opposition's defensive and midfield lines, which in turn gives Ten Hag side greater space in the middle of the pitch, with the centre forward sitting high as well, and you've essentially pinned back the opposition's back four, or at least three of the back four, backwards away from the midfield, creating that space in behind the opposition's midfield. And this is done both in the build-up phase and in the middle third. However, the second reason why the wide attackers are asked to retain their advanced width is to create one-on-one situations, and a great example of this was in the game this season against Borussia Dortmund at the Westfalenstadion, when Ajax won 3-1 in the group stage of the Champions League. So we can see here that Ajax have the ball in their build-up phase, and they're sitting in a kind of 2-4-4 shape, using a double pivot at this point, and you can see here that Antony on the right is sitting high and wide, and the ball gets worked down Ajax's left side, and when Davy Klaassen receives the ball, you can see here that rather than moving infield as a conventional modern day wide player may have done, Antony has instead held his width, giving himself a massive amount of space. Eventually it's Tadic who plays the long raking pass to switch the play out to Antony, who can now isolate the left back in a 1v1, goes down the line and puts a low ball across the box, and Klaassen is there to put the ball into the back of the net, showing a great example of how instructing one of your wide players to hold their width can lead to opportunities where you're able to switch the play and create chances through one-on-one situations. At Manchester United, Jadon Sancho would definitely be one player used in this winger role, either from the left or the right, but I would probably prefer him on the left as the angles tend to suit his passes in behind a lot better, whilst also benefiting him when he's looking for those under or overlapping passes from each side. Elanga would also be used in this role, probably from the right side, because I don't think his vision or passing is as good as Sancho, so he'd be better off driving down the outside of the fullback and getting into crossing positions. However, I do think that United need an upgrade in that right winger position, which I will be talking about in my Who Manchester United Should Sign video, which should be out in the next week or so make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on that. In terms of the striker, Ten Hag is pretty flexible. In Ajax's run to the Champions League semi-finals in 2019, he did use Dusan Tadic as a kind of false 9, but he also used Kasper Dolberg as more of a conventional deep line forward. But currently he does use Sebastian Haller as more of a target man, sitting higher up the pitch and allowing Ajax to go more direct with a vertical pass into his chest or feet if needed. And in the final third he offers the aerial threat that Tadic and Dolberg didn't, and so I could see Ronaldo being used in a similar kind of role for Ten Hag as well. Now throughout Ten Hag's time at Ajax, the wide and high three in the build-up and middle third has been a constant, coming from the Cruyff and Michels school of thought to stretch the pitch as much as possible. But the positioning of the deeper 7 in the midfield and defensive lines has varied from season to season and system to system as well. In the De Jong and De Ligt team, Ten Hag used more of a 4-2-3-1 system that would become a 3-3-1-3 in possession, with one of the double pivot, usually De Jong, dropping into the back line, creating a back three, either sitting in a temporary left-sided centre-back position or dropping between the two centre-backs, allowing the full-backs to push higher up the pitch, whilst Tadic and Van der Beek would then drop off, looking to pick up space in between the lines. However, with his current Ajax side, we do see a lot more variety and fluidity, with Ten Hag's side being able to move into a 3-3-1-3 shape, which is more of a 3-4-3 diamond, with Mazraoui moving infield into an inverted fullback position as the left back Daley Blind or Tagliafico hold deeper positions to create a back three, as the right-sided central midfielder pushes up to become the point of the diamond. Or we can also see Ajax move to a 3-2-2-3, with Mazraoui still moving infield but creating a double pivot with the deepest midfielder Alvarez, as both central midfielders ahead of him push up in between the lines, giving Ajax a kind of box shape in midfield. As I said, this possession shape does vary in the build-up depending on how the opposition looks to press Ajax, and therefore Ten Hag's fullbacks and central midfielders need to be very positionally versatile. The fullbacks need to be press resistant and good first-time passers in case they need to push infield into a central position, but equally they need to have good vision and technique to play long or incisive passes if they need to drop into the deeper positions in the back line. Now at Ajax, because they don't have the funds to just go out and sign a multi-talented fullback, Ten Hag has been using Mazraoui as more of the advanced fullback on the right, capable of pushing forward down the flank or inverting infield, and Blind plays more as the deeper fullback on the left in order to take advantage of his passing ability, which aids Ajax's ability to progress the ball forward, and this is something that Ten Hag might have to do at Manchester United as well. Wan-Bissaka just isn't good enough in possession to even be a backup in Ten Hag's squad. He's going to be a complete liability in possession. His lack of ability to move the ball quickly is going to slow down the build-up and make it easier for the opposition side to press United. Shaw isn't as bad as Wan-Bissaka in possession. He is better at driving out of pressure, but he will need to improve, as at the moment he takes far too long in possession, and I don't think he has the close ball control or press resistance needed if he has to play as an inverted fullback from the left side. Before I go any further though, if you do want to help support the channel, then you can go to elclasicocases.com, where they have a variety of fantastically designed football phone cases available for £20 or less. And if you use code AF at checkout, you'll also get a massive 25% off. Or you can alternatively go to freeretro.com and pick up one of these retro football jerseys. They've got England, some of the Premier League clubs, they've got Celtic, Inter Milan and some other Italian clubs as well as Barcelona, and so I'll leave both of those sites linked in the description. Anything you do buy will be helping to support the channel. Diego Dalot, however, would be perfectly suited to Ten Hag's style of play. He's a very good long passer, so initially I could see Ten Hag using him as the deepest fullback, creating a back three in order to utilise his passing, but equally, like Mazraoui, I am confident that he can develop into an inverted fullback. The same goes for Telles as well, although I don't think he is as good as Dalot in these areas, but his long passing ability from deep could also be of use. In terms of the centre-backs, I do think that Lindelof and Varane will be the starters. The defensive superiority of those two compared to Bailly and Maguire should be obvious, but also in possession I think Varane's long passing and Lindelof's ability to drive past the opposition's press will be hugely valuable. Though as I will talk about in my Who Manchester United should sign video, which I will be working on after this, I do think United still need another centre back in the summer. But a big issue I see for Manchester United is in midfield. With the current options, it's going to be an absolute shambles. Pogba is going to leave, I'm pretty sure at this point, but even if he were to stay, United would need at least 2 central midfielders to come in. Matic, McTominay and Fred all have vulnerabilities when playing out during an aggressive press, and so none of them would be suitable to play in those 2 deeper central midfield positions, and certainly not as a deep single pivot. James Garner is a player who I think could develop into the perfect player for that reduced role. After this, if you do watch my analysis of him, which will be linked below, you'll see why I do think he's the perfect player for this particular role, and I do think he could have a similar progression to Busquets for Pep at Barcelona, for Ten Hag at Manchester United. So just to sum it up, in the build-up phase, Ten Hag's positional shape will be fluid, with players interchanging positions depending on the opposition's pressing shape, sometimes moving to a 3-2-2 shape in the build-up, and sometimes a 2-3-2, and sometimes a 3-3-1 as well. Now this obviously takes a lot of coaching time and practice to get it completely fluid, with the players needing to have the understanding of when to pull wide, drop deep or push up, and of course every player in that deep positional unit, including the keeper, needs to be composed under pressure and an accurate passer, as Ten Hag's side will be looking to continually play out even after the first wave of pressure. And if anything, his Ajax side almost invites the pressure, knowing that they do have the ability to play around it, and then they can exploit the space in behind the press. But what this does mean for players who aren't fluid enough with the ball at their feet, like Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire, Matic, Fred and even David De Gea, is that they are going to be problematic for Ten Hag's style of play. In the Manchester United transfer video I will do, I'll go into more detail about why David De Gea might need to be replaced, and it's not because he's not a top goalkeeper. It's like Joe Hart when Pep Guardiola came in. He just doesn't suit the style of play, and anyone who doesn't think that this is a vital part of Ten Hag's side doesn't understand the value a good ball playing keeper can bring. When Ten Hag's side are able to move out of their defensive third, their possession shape resembles a 3-2-2-3 that becomes a 3-1-3-3 at times, and this is because usually the left back Daley Blind retains a deeper position in that back line, giving Ajax a wide base of a 3 in possession. This is ultimately for the circulation of the ball from one side to the other, as it is a wider base than a back 2 and also has one less player than a back 4, so it allows Ajax to circulate the ball a lot more efficiently and have an extra player higher up the pitch, but still have those 2 players wide of the opposition centre forward or front 2, and the extra player higher up the pitch can be sitting in between the lines. We see here that Mazraoui starts off positioned in the double pivot alongside Alvarez, with Gravenberch and Berghaus ahead between the lines. When the ball is on the left side, Mazraoui retains a deeper position, but as the ball gets switched over across the back line, he can either pull wide into a conventional right back position, opening up a passing lane, or as he does in most cases, he pushes higher up the pitch in between the lines alongside Berghaus and Gravenberch in that right sided half space position. This is done not just to pull the opposition's midfield line backwards, giving the right sided player in the back 3 more space to drive forward, whilst also having more passing options in between the lines, but also to drag the opposition's left sided midfielder narrow, creating more space for the right winger Antony on the right flank, which allows Ajax to create that 1v1 situation. This is a key feature of Ten Hag's possession system, and why having wingers who can dribble past players in these one-on-ones are so vital to the success of the whole system. When each side have the ball in the middle third looking to break down the opposition, they can either look to work the ball into players between the lines, or switch the play quickly out to the wingers to create a 1v1, or have the players looking to make underlapping runs in between the opposition's centre-backs and full-backs, just as Guardiola's Manchester City made famous, with De Bruyne's famous underlapping run down the right into a dangerous crossing position. Out of possession, Ten Hag's side retain the total football philosophy of pressing aggressively in a counter press as soon as the ball is lost, swarming around the opposition player on the ball before the other side have the opportunity to set in their possession shape, with the idea of winning the ball back high up the pitch and then attacking immediately. If the opposition side manage to retain possession or play out of the press, Ajax will then retreat into a deeper, more passive 4-5-1 shape, which Ten Hag uses as a way of resetting setting the side into a solid defensive shape before Ajax can look to press as a team in a man-to-man system. If the opposition side is using a 4-3-3 system with a single pivot in possession, we may see Ajax press in a 4-2-3-1, allowing them to go man-to-man on the opposition's midfield. But if instead they look to use a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, Ajax can alter their press to a 4-1-4, with the two central midfielders, Gravenberch and Berghaus, pushing up and leaving Alvarez as the deep single pivot. Unlike Manchester United throughout most of the season, Ajax's press is well coordinated, with each player being aware that in order to initiate the press, he can't go alone, he needs to wait before the side is set, so that when he eventually moves out of his defensive position to press the player on the ball, the player in the line behind is close enough to move up and fill that gap, creating a vertically compact pressing shape. The problem that United had mainly at the start of the season, but even still to a degree under Rangnick, was that their press was completely disjointed, with the forward and midfield lines often pressing when the defensive line wasn't close enough to shift up and condense that space, making it easy for the opposition to play around United's press. Ten Hag's pressing system should immediately improve United defensively without even having any new players brought in, and we can see how good Ajax have been defensively this season, as they've only conceded 13 goals in 27 Eredivisie games, which is not only the best record in the league, but 14 goals less than the second best defensive record, Feyenoord, who have conceded 27 goals. However, despite all of this, with the current United squad, it is going to be a struggle to get them to Ajax's current level. I think Lindelof would suit playing that right-sided position in the back three when in possession, being able to drive forward with the ball into the space when the ball is switched. I think Dalla would be able to play the Mazraoui role, pushing into the midfield line and in between the lines, whilst Telles and Shaw could play as that deeper role on the left side. However, I do think that United do need to be looking to bring in another right-back and a left-sided centre-back who can improve their ball progression through either their forward passing or dribbling, as ultimately United are looking to build a team to challenge for the title, and so they do need top level ball playing defenders, not just players who can do a job. Of all United's current central midfielders, James Garner would be the best suited to that regista role in front of the back line. However, I do still think that United need a starting player for this position, as Fred McTominay and Matic are all unsuitable for this role, and whilst I do think Garner can be top level, United can't only have him in that role for the whole of next season. Overall, United's incisive passing from those deeper positions has to improve, because it doesn't matter how perfect the possession shape is, with multiple passing lanes open, if you don't have the players who can play those passes, then offensively you aren't going to be very effective. It's why Rodri is so important to Manchester City, why Busquets was crucial for Guardiola at Barcelona, and why De Jong thrived at Ajax in that deeper midfield role. Donny van de Beek and Bruno Fernandes could be very good options in those two advanced central midfield positions, pushing up between the lines and looking to make forward runs in behind the back line as well. However, I do think that United need a better creative player than Van de Beek alongside Fernandes, who can drop deeper and be more of a playmaker than a second striker. Pogba would be perfect for this role, but it does look like he'll leave, and Van de Beek and Fernandes are very similar, so whilst they would be two very good options for that most advanced central midfield role, I do think that United should be looking to bring in another player to start alongside one of those two with a regista behind. I do think that Hannibal Mejbri could be a player who thrives under Ten Hag, playing in one of those two advanced midfield positions, as he has the ball carrying ability, the press resistance and creativity to suit a roaming playmaker role. So even though he is still young, we could see him have a similar kind of development to players like De Jong, Gravenberch and Van de Beek under Ten Hag, though I do think that he is better as one of the alternative options rather than as the main starter at this moment in time. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell, because I have got more Ten Hag Manchester United content coming very soon, and I'll also leave some other videos linked in the description and put your thoughts in the comment section below as well.